Hello, welcome to another installment of Around the Valley, the show where we debate local and national sports issues each week with an esteemed panel of guests. We have a number of topics to discuss today, covering several different sports. And at the end of the show, I will award one of our guests the esteemed title of the People's Champion, and along with it, 30 seconds of rant time on a subject of his choice. I'm your host, Ted Barry, and today with me, I have two highly knowledgeable panelists. The first is Mark McDonough, a UMass senior and local comedian. Thanks for being here, Mark.
Oh, no problem, Ted.
Also here today is another UMass senior, Kevin Moore, who's also a goalie for the Minutemen hockey team. Thanks for being here, Kevin.
Thank you, Ted.
All right, let's get right into it. We'll start today with one of the more pressing issues for New England sports fans at the moment, and that, of course, is the NHL playoffs. The Bruins recently clinched the Northeast Division and the number 2 seed in the playoffs when they notched their first win of the season over the Eastern Conference leading Rangers earlier this week. Claude Julien's team is the only one in the league with 6 20-goal scorers, and even though Tim Thomas's play has fallen off slightly from his Vezina Trophy winning campaign last season, he's still top 10 in the league in save percentage. With this kind of deep, balanced offense and their veteran leadership, the Bruins must be feeling pretty good about their chances right now. Kevin?
Yeah, I think the Bruins have as good a chance as anybody. The East is pretty stacked this year when you look at the Rangers, the Flyers. The Penguins just got Sidney Crosby and Chris Letang back, so you have to think they're the favorites, even though they're the 4th seed. But yeah, the Bruins are as deep as anybody. But the thing that really gets the Bruins going is Patrice Bergeron and his checking. He's going to be a Selke finalist for best defensive forward. He's a clutch player, and that's what you need during playoff time. Things tighten up, scoring goes down a little, and you need guys to win faceoffs and get you the puck. And Bergeron's one of those guys.
Yeah, the Bruins will be fine. They got the Senators in the first round. The Senators are kind of like the ugly little brother of Canadian hockey teams. Not too scared of them. Plus, the Rangers, they're in first right now, but they've won one championship in 70 years. They're the most overrated team in the history of professional sports. Colorado Avalanche have only been around since '95, and they have twice the number of rings. But
I mean, I don't know about that though, because you look at the Rangers and how they're built this year, and they're a blue collar team. They're not a Broadway team like some of the Rangers of the past. And Ryan Callahan's as good a leader as anybody in hockey right now, and Henrik Lundqvist is going to win the Vezina as far as I'm concerned. He's got 9 shutouts. He's top 5 in goals against average, save percentage. He's a sub 2 goals against. He's basically having a year like Tim Thomas had last year with a Rangers team that, from a skill standpoint, is probably not as skilled as the Bruins. So, he might be the difference, especially if Thomas can't raise his game like he did last season.
So in a potential matchup, if it occurs between the Bruins and the Rangers in the playoffs, you kind of have the whole subplot of Boston versus New York, even though it's not as present in hockey as in the other sports. What do you see that, how would that go down for the two teams, for the cities? What would that mean?
Well, I think it's a rivalry that's sort of building. I was at a Bruins-Ranger game at the TD Garden earlier this year, and they don't like New York at all. It doesn't matter if it's hockey, baseball, basketball. If you see New York on the scoreboard here, the Boston fans really don't like it. And,
right.
It's a toss-up. I think the Rangers take it because Lundqvist will play a little bit better. He won Olympic gold in '06. He can be a money goalie when he really turns it on. And, the Bruins have question marks. Horton had 3 game-winning goals in the playoffs last year, and, he might not be healthy. Maybe he gets banged up a little, and he's a big body that they need. If they can't get completely healthy, it might be tough for the Bruins.
Assuming that Horton does come back at some point in the playoffs, it'd probably take a pretty deep player front for him to make it back. Also, with the probable return of Tuukka Rask, the backup goalie, how do you think that will impact the Bruins' chances?
I don't think it's going to do too much down the stretch. I think there's only 3 regular season games left, and Thomas is the guy for the playoffs. He took him to the Cup. They're not just going to pull the plug on him. If he struggles in a game, I don't think he needs to look over his shoulder like Luongo last year with Corey Schneider.
All right, great. Let's move on now to one of the bigger national stories this week. That's the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship on Monday night, featuring number one seed Kentucky Wildcats, number 2 Kansas Jayhawks. Kentucky was the favorite all season, most of the season throughout this tournament to win it, and they defeated Kansas by scores 67-59 that night to bring home their first championship since 1998. It was also Coach John Calipari's first title in his career, despite bringing 3 different teams, being the second coach ever to bring 3 different teams to Final Fours, even though 2 of those were officially vacated by the NCAA for numerous rules infractions. Calipari stirs up a lot of different mixed emotions in this area particularly, as he was UMass basketball coach back in the 90s. And despite overhauling the program and helping with the construction of the Moan Center, bringing a lot of national recruits, including the Player of the Year, Marcus Camby in 1996. Despite all those, he also was found guilty of, he wasn't personally found guilty, but the Final Four appearances vacated because of infractions against Camby, as he was found to be taking bribes and playing for pay. So with that said, how does this championship affect Calipari's legacy here at UMass nationally throughout his entire NCAA career?
I can't stand Calipari. He looks like a used car salesman. Looks like the type of guy that would sleep with your wife. I just don't trust him. It's got a few years. I think it's going to come out something bad with this team too. Bob Knight had it right a few years ago. He called him out. Bob Knight is somebody who's met with respect and esteem around the league, and I trust his opinion. If he says Calipari's no good, Calipari's no good. But you know what? He's going to keep getting jobs. He's probably going to keep getting to championship games, keep succeeding. It's kind of a dark spot on the NCAA, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that might be the case, but, the guy can coach. He knows how to get the most out of his players. Kentucky keeps having one-and-done guys, and yet he keeps putting, winning teams on the floor. And that's what Kentucky's looking for. That's what NCAA teams want. They want winning. And if they have to deal with infractions down the line, the revenue that they can bring in from, 5, 10 winning seasons from a coach like Calipari, they can take the hit. I mean, UMass didn't even take the banners down. Obviously, he's pretty beloved here still. there is a little bit of mixed motion, but they didn't take the banners down, and, we got the Mullen Center out of it here at UMass. So, right. I mean, his legacy, I think, is going to be fine. He's going to be a great coach unless they decide to start stripping him of, hundreds of wins. Otherwise, he'll be up there with some of the best of all time.
Speaking of his recruiting tendencies, what are your opinions on his tendency to kind of encourage players to make the leap to the NBA when he feels they're ready? He started 3 freshmen throughout this tournament, all of which will most likely be high picks in the draft this year, including Anthony Davis, Player of the Year, who'll probably go number 1 overall. Do you think that, like David Stern, who recently said that he believes that college basketball should institute another year of eligibility before they make the jump to the pros, do you agree with that, or do you kind of see the success of other high school players who've made the jump, like Kevin Garnett, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, who think they don't need the experience of college? I
mean, you said he's a used car salesman, and he sort of sold me this week on the idea, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, they didn't have a college education. They were looking for their dreams. They're looking out for their goals. And I think adding a year of college for these basketball players who really aren't focusing on college, it's not worth it. What's it going to do? It's just going to, prolong an unhappy stay in classrooms. And, they want to go to the pros. They're capable of going to the pros. 2 years of college isn't going to get them any farther than 1. So, let them go.
I think it's absolutely their choice if they want to go to the pros or not. It just stinks if you're a college basketball fan. You only get to see the best players for 1 year and then they leave. You used to get to see them for, sometimes they go straight to the NBA, but a lot of great players stuck around for 4 years. You get to see them develop. And a lot of people just hate the NBA. So somebody like Anthony Davis, who's going to make the jump this year, be the number 1 pick, probably never be watched again by most of these college basketball fans. It definitely hurts NCAA viewership, but that shouldn't be Anthony Davis's concern. So he should be able to leave if he wants to.
Okay. All right, thanks. So let's make the jump now to more basketball, but now the pro level. The Celtics, who we talked about last week, are in one of the toughest stretches of their schedule to end out the month of April, end out the season. They have a lot of games against Miami, San Antonio, Chicago, all these playoff-bound teams they have. They've been playing fairly well over the past few weeks, and in particular, the play of Rajon Rondo, the point guard, has stepped up enormously. Talking, of course, about the Miami game earlier this week, in which he notched a triple-double, his 18th one of his career, and handing the Heat their biggest loss of the season. It's interesting that Rondo, out of his 18 career triple-doubles, 14 of them have come from nationally televised games. And so we wonder now, as we play this brutal stretch of the schedule with several nationally televised games on ESPN and TNT, will Rondo's play keep up? And when they make it to the playoffs, which they will at some point, whatever seed they end up with, will he and Pierce be able to carry the team through a 7-game series?
Listen, I think a lot of people feel the way I do. There's a love-hate with Rondo. You can if every game was on Sunday at 3 o'clock, Celtics would be the 96 Bulls, I think. They wouldn't lose a game. It seems to be the only time he's really giving it at all. Numbers don't really lie. He only has had 4 career triple-doubles when the national TV cameras aren't there. But during this last stretch of this season, if he wants to overcome all the hate that's towards him, he's going to have to step up now, and here's his chance to do it. They threatened to trade him early in the year. They seemingly couldn't wait to get him out of their locker room, and now it's his time to prove that he belongs in the locker room.
I don't think he can do it. You look historically in the NBA playoff, guards are not who drive the winners. It's usually the big men. I think Chauncey Billups and Allen Iverson were the only guys that come to mind who really got their teams to the finals as the main guy. I think even if he steps it up, his play might improve, but he's not the big shot shooter that Billups is, and he's certainly not Allen Iverson from a pure scoring standpoint. So even if he's putting up triple doubles, it might not be enough.
Okay, another interesting player who's come up recently is Avery Bradley, who actually started the season as Rondo's backup, and now with especially the injury to Ray Allen's ankle, has been put into the starting lineup and has been playing exceptional defense lately. The team is 11-4 when he starts, but with Ray due to come back from an injury probably very soon, do you see Doc Rivers placing Ray back into the starting lineup? Do you think that he'll keep Bradley there? And what should he do also for the better of the team?
I think he's gonna put Ray right in, out of respect. I mean, he's a veteran guy. The big three is what they tout in Boston, and I don't think you're gonna disrespect a Ray Allen like that. With that said, you keep Bradley in the starting lineup. You need the athleticism. You need the D. He gives them a spark, and at the end of the day, it gives Ray Allen rest. Going into the playoffs, why not have a rested Ray Allen? He'll play better in the playoffs. It's a grind. Keep this young guy in there, eat up the minutes, get some wins, and, Allen will be there for the playoffs.
Yeah, Allen should be on the starting 5, but Bradley's minutes should certainly increase. I'm in love with them, pretty much. Every coach around the league loves him, too. He plays some of the best one-on-one D we've seen. He made Wade look silly the other day, which I don't think anybody thought was going to happen, including Wade. And he's actually had players approach him and tell him that he didn't need to try that hard on defense, which shows you how some players in the NBA think, but thankfully he's not one of them. I think he has to come. He's going to make a great 6th man. I hope the Celtics keep him. I hope they're smart enough to keep him.
Seems like whatever decision Doc Rivers makes, he'll definitely play a big part in their playoff run this year, so look to see a lot more out of him in the future. Now moving on, as the basketball and hockey seasons wind down, baseball season, of course, is right around the corner. We're actually underway the season already, and the Red Sox make their debut this week for the 2012 season. Questions have arisen lately in the starting rotation, particularly with John Lackey being out for the season after recovering from Tommy John surgery, and Daisuke Matsuzaka not scheduled to return for several months after recovering from the same surgery. Only recently did new manager Bobby Valentine name his number 4 and 5 starters, Daniel Bard and Felix DeBrant, respectively. It was only earlier this week, actually, about a week before the season starts, that he made those decisions. They've traditionally been relievers throughout their very short careers. Bard actually hasn't started since 2007 when he was playing single-A ball. Do you think that Valentine made the right decision in promoting these two, particularly in the wake of Andrew Bailey's injury? He's expected to be out through the All-Star break at least. Do you think it was the right move to take Bard out of the bullpen and make him a starter? And also, what do you think DeBrant's role is, and how will he fare as a number 5 starter?
I think putting Bard in the starting rotation is a good move. He's a guy who hasn't started since 2007, but he's got a live arm. You get him stretched out. You're looking at him as the 4th and 5th starter. You're not trying to rely on him as an ace. If you can get 6 innings out of him of a night, with some quality starts here and there, with the Red Sox offense, they're going to be fine. And then, DeBrant, he's sort of a wild card to me. He was in Double-A most of last season. I think that 5th starter is probably going to be in and out the whole year for the Red Sox. But with the good offense they have, it shouldn't really matter.
Yeah, Bard, if you put him at closer, you get about 70 innings out of him. Hopefully as a starter, you get double that, which the Sox need. Also, Ben Cherington hasn't shown much love for closes. He's kind of under the assumption that they'll find somebody. It doesn't really matter who it was. The Cardinals last year used 4 different closes on the way to their World Series ring. So I think that's kind of the approach he's taking. I think having Bard start I don't know about Dubrant, but having Bodstadt's definitely a good move. Got to give Dubrant at least a shot.
How about, what do you think about the move of Alfredo Aceves being named the closer in Bailey's absence? He's shown to be one of the better relievers in the league, probably very underrated. Some people thought that he might have been even promoted to one of the starting positions, but Valentine decided to keep him in the bullpen, and it's actually looking like a pretty good move now that Bailey's out for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think it is a good move. He had, about a 2.6 ERA last year, and with Bailey out, you need someone to fill those closer role. And I don't think a closer by committee is the way to go. You need to find a guy, and it looks like Aceves should be the guy. It's logical, and it's it's good to see Valentine going with him.
Bobby Valentine's so crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if he took the mound to close the game.
He did invent the rap after all.
Yeah, in those bicycle shorts. But no, Aceves should be fine. The Red Sox are going to be fine.
All right. I like it. I like to hear that. Let's jump now to another spring sport, one that doesn't really get much recognition, at least anywhere east of New England and Virginia, Baltimore, places like that. Talking about lacrosse. Lost kind of in the UMass NIT basketball run, all the different professional sports, things that are happening, is the fact that the UMass men's lacrosse team has been putting up an outstanding season this year. They're ranked number 2 in the country. They're one of only 2 undefeated teams left in Division I. They are ranked 5th in scoring offense in the nation and 3rd in defense, led by attackman Will Manny, who's the 5th leading scorer in the nation, and goalie Tim McCormick, who has the 2nd highest save percentage in Division I. I'd like to ask you guys, as UMass students, you kind of have a pulse of the campus, you kind of know what's going on. What do you make of UMass lacrosse's impact on the campus? Have you seen anything that's going on? Do you think it should get more recognition? Can you just talk a little bit about that and what this team could potentially mean for the students?
They without a doubt should get more recognition. They're the number 2 team in the country. They're number 1 in the Lax Power rankings, despite a 30th strength of schedule rating. But UMass has been starved for winning teams. You look at the hockey team, finished 8th this season. It was exciting, but we really didn't put together a winning year. You look at the baseball team; they've been up and down. Basketball's been up and down recently. The students need a winning team to cling on to, and for whatever reason, they're not. To me, it's probably because it's cold out still. Yeah, it's the spring, but who wants to sit at on the cold bleachers and watch a sport that nobody really understands? But people should be going out in droves, and it's just not happening.
Right.
I've definitely started to hear grumblings. Just the fact that we're talking about it here means it's starting to get some recognition. It certainly should get more. I think what hurts it is that it's not a quote-unquote Big 4 sport. There's the pro league, nobody watches. I couldn't tell you a single thing about professional lacrosse. But there's something about going to a basketball, hockey, baseball, football game where these guys might go on, even if it's a slight chance, might go on and play professionally. It's like you're getting maybe to see a star be born. And I think it hurts lacrosse that nobody watches lacrosse on TV. I think a lot of people don't even understand the rules of lacrosse. I played lacrosse when I was younger. I scored 1 goal and my pants fell down. So just for the fact that these kids can keep their pants up is impressive to me. So as it's our obligation as students to support this team.
So needless to say, you won't be trying out for the team anytime soon.
No, I will not.
Okay. Well, so that being said, now that the weather is starting to get nicer out, it looks like they're going to make a pretty solid run into the NCAA tournament, which they haven't done seriously since the early 2000s when they made 4 out of 5 NCAA tournaments in the early 2000s, and also went to the championship in one of those years in 2006. If they do get a high seed in the tournament and make a solid run, and the weather gets nice, and the students just want something to do you think they'll make it down on the field? Do you think they'll jump on the bandwagon, so to speak, like they've done with the NIT basketball team this past year, and then a few other teams in years past, hockey, football, teams like that? Do you think it'll have an impact on them?
I think they will. They're winning. Winning is what drives the students here, and I think if you make an NCAA tournament, it's going to be on ESPN, and fans are going to notice.
National television is a huge bonus for any sport. So
yeah, students want to have big heads or big signs and try to get on TV and call home. So
I think the weather definitely plays a factor. Unfortunately, if it's nice out, I think people will go.
Yeah.
You got to go if it's nice out.
That makes sense.
Everybody watching at home.
All right, well, we can hope that they make a deep run to the tournament. They're number 2 ranked in the country right now. The playoffs will be coming up soon, and we hope to see them in the final dance soon. Jumping now to another national topic that's been getting a fair amount of play recently is the sale of the Los Angeles Dodgers to a group headed by Magic Johnson. The sale in itself was expected, as the former owner, Frank McCourt, had been battling a lot of issues with his finances lately. The team filed for bankruptcy last year. He was in the middle of a very costly divorce with his wife over the past few years. But what's been making waves is really, besides the fact that Magic Johnson is leading this group, is that they sold for a record $2.15 billion price, which far and away blows any other record out of the water. The previous record for a baseball team before that was $845 million, which a group bought the Chicago Cubs for in 2009. Forbes magazine's most valuable franchise the past several years has been Manchester United, a soccer team in England, and that sold for $1.47 million. What do you make of this astronomical price that they paid for, especially considering the Dodgers' financial woes the past few years? Basically, do you think they overpaid for this, and will it come back to hurt them?
There's no question they absolutely overpaid. Man U only went for $1.7 billion, and the Dodgers, who bankruptcy, who have not been good recently, it just makes no sense to me. But you attach Magic Johnson to it, it adds stability. It is LA. They're going to attract free agents, and I think if you get a call from Magic Johnson as a free agent, how do you not listen? So I think that will drive the value of the team up, and I think they'll be able to make up the money that they invested here.
Right.
I mean, generous estimates, the team's worth about $1 billion, and they paid $2 billion. So something tells you that doesn't make much sense. It's not like you're overpaying for a cab ride. You spend an extra $1 billion on something. And as for Magic Johnson, it's good that he's mostly just a figurehead. I don't know who's he going to start at shortstop. James Worthy, I don't think so. So I don't know how much he knows about baseball, but he's the king of LA. He's got $1 million smile. Not a billion one, but $1 billion one. But he's got $1 million smile, so he'll attract some faces.
Another interesting aspect has been the fact that they've been fighting to get a television deal with either Fox TV or Time Warner over the past few years. They haven't actually closed on one, but when they do, which will probably happen in the next year or so, they can expect to see a lot of revenue coming in over the next 20 years or so. The Los Angeles Angels recently signed their own deal, which allowed them to land the 2 biggest free agents this past offseason, Albert Pujols and C.J. Wilson. But when the Dodgers do inevitably sign this deal, a good deal of that revenue will have to go back into making up for the losses that this group paid for. So do you think that the price will affect the free agent signings over the next few years? They recently gave extensions to Matt Kemp and Andre Ethier. Do you think that this will affect their spending, and indirectly will it lead to kind of a battle for supremacy for Los Angeles with the Angels, who kind of have this new revamped look and are probably going to make a strong push for the playoffs this year?
I don't think there's a battle for supremacy at all in LA. I think the Dodgers are it. I know the Angels have had some big signings, and Pujols is the biggest name in baseball. But you talk to people out in LA, you talk to people in Southern Cal. The Dodgers are it. The Angels might be a flashy pick right now, but it's not a battle. And as far as the TV deals go, that's going to be huge. But then again, this is the Dodgers. They signed Kevin Brown a long while ago, and for an astronomical deal, and they didn't have the TV deal. So it doesn't matter. It's LA. They'll find the money.
Okay.
They're starting out in the red, so they got some time. It's going to take some time before they make some of that money back. But the TV deal is obviously going to help. Hopefully they can sign Sandy Koufax or somebody. But until then, I think they're going to have to sit in the doldrums of the league.
So you foresee the Dodgers having better, equal to, worse record than the Angels this year? What's your kind of final predictions?
Worse. Angels have Pujols, arguably the best baseball player of all time. Sorry, Dodgers, you just don't have him.
Okay.
Yeah, you go worse, but you look at a 5-year trend here, and I think the Dodgers are going to be the ones, who's going to be more stable and a better team.
So short-term Angels, long-term Dodgers in Magic.
Yeah.
All right. On to our final topic tonight, which is it was a huge topic earlier this year. Of course, the whole Jeremy Lin saga in New York, for the New York Knicks. The whole Linsanity came on, burst onto the scene. Undrafted point guard out of Harvard, Asian American, pretty much had every underdog status going for him that you could possibly have, and tore up the league for a few weeks. when he was put in the starting lineup. Since then, things have kind of cooled off. Lynn's actually hurt now. He's out for the next several weeks. He isn't expected back until the playoffs, if even then. But under new coach Mike Woodson, they also have a 9-3 record. Do you think that they're at an 8 seed right now, and they're a game and a half up over the Milwaukee Bucks for the playoffs? So they're kind of clinging on to playoff hopes. And it was a huge blow to them that they lost Jeremy Lin. Do you think that they'll recover from that? Do you think that Baron Davis, who's getting up there in age and is not close to the same player he used to be, do you think he can kind of shoulder the load? Do you think Carmelo Anthony will take over, be the player that he should be, that he was in Denver? How do you see the rest of their season playing out and their playoff chances?
Well, Baron Davis isn't the answer. They're running a lot more half-court sets with him because he can't push the pace like Lin. So I think the Knicks need to look at a guy like Iman Shumpert, and he's long, he's athletic, he can push the pace and play more of a Jeremy Lin style basketball with them. But Mike Woodson wants to run the offense through Carmelo. You don't want a Carmelo Anthony pouting there because he's not getting enough shots, and they're only going to go as far as he goes. And I think he's soft. I don't think he can do it, but it'll be interesting to see.
Baron Davis definitely isn't the answer. It's like filling a void with a black hole. He's just too old. People complain about Lin's turnovers. Davis was having almost as many turnovers a game, and he's supposed to be the veteran. Linsanity overall was just, I think, the perfect example of our culture now. Thing was big for 2 weeks, then it's gone.
Mm-hmm. Flash in the pan.
Flash in the pan. I mean, I'm sure there's Lin jerseys gathering dust in somebody's closet right now. That's how meteoric his rise and fall was already. I mean, I wish the best for the kid. He'll be back next year, and he won't have as much attention on him. So I think that will definitely benefit him to just be able to go out and play basketball.
So what do you foresee his role being over the next year? So do you see the Knicks keeping him for the future? Do you see him kind of settling into a solid 17 points a night, maybe 8 assists kind of guy? Or, I mean, you don't really expect him to live up to his potential when he was scoring close to 30 points a night.
Well, he was, right before he got injured, he was averaging 15 and 6. So for a rookie, that's tremendous. I think the Knicks would be crazy to trade him. New York loves him. America loves him. So they got to keep him.
Yeah, I think he's their point guard for the future because I think he's so unselfish that he can make it work in New York when they bring in the star players. You need to keep Melo happy. You need to keep Amari happy. He's unselfish. He's the underdog guys understand that because they know what it takes to get to the top, and they know what it takes, how a team works, the team dynamics, because they're sitting on the bench observing this stuff. So I think he thinks the game at a different level, and he's going to be able to sort of keep those stars happy.
So you see him as a Knicks starting point guard in the coming year or so, at least for...
Oh, they love him in New York. I mean, when you get Madison Square Garden going for basketball, nothing compares. It's a basketball city. And, the way it was going when Linsanity started, they make a playoff run, and it's going to be just rocking.
Okay. One more question. As a New York fan, Kevin specifically, assuming that the Rangers make a solid run in the playoffs, and potentially even vie for the Stanley Cup at the end of the season, how would that impact New York's view of basketball and hockey? The kind of conflicting, both teams playing Madison Square Garden. How do you see that playing out?
This happened in '94 when the Rangers won the Cup and the Rangers and the Knicks were in the finals. It's just the love goes around. The city's too big to pick a side, in the winter and going into the spring. So, it'd be huge for hockey in general because I think it's on the rise and it's booming, and the way it was in '94, and the NHL messed it up with their lockout. But I think the Rangers winning a cup would just be big nationally for hockey in America. So that's what we're looking for.
All right, looking forward to that. All right, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for tonight. We have plenty of other topics to talk about, but we'll have to get to those next week. You guys both made some great points tonight, but I think I'm going to have to award the People's Champion belt to Mark McDonough tonight. Congratulations.
Oh, come on.
You may take your rant time. The floor is yours.
Hey guys. I'd just like to briefly discuss my favorite team, the Boston Celtics. Nobody's giving them much love nowadays. Everybody was there with them in 08. We didn't need you guys in 08. We had the three of the best players in the league, but they're old now. We need fans. All you girls updating your statuses about the Bruins. Stop. You can watch the Bruins, but also watch the Celtics. Don't just talk about what's cool. The Celtics are always cool. Love you, Avery Bradley. Hope you're watching. I doubt you are. And let me just quickly do some self-promotion. Wednesday nights at the U Pub on UMass Amherst's campus, right in the campus center, right across from Blue Wall. I run an open mic. Sign-ups at 8. Show starts at 8:30. We do music. We do comics, magicians, whatever you want to do. Just come. It's a good time. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you both of us for joining us tonight. And thank you guys at home. We'll see you next week. This has been another episode of Around the Valley.